Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And before the break, we were looking at the topic with regards to who can give talaq in Islam. And I mentioned that husbands who are sane and also who have reached the age of puberty, they can give talaq and divorce. And I also mentioned on the side with regards to husbands or men or brothers who suffer from OCDs or doubts or misgivings, their talaq and their divorce will not occur. Now we're going to make a start on the second session, which will last all the way up to 12:30, by looking at the next part of the course book, where I've mentioned there, underlined exceptions, i.e. some exceptions where someone who may not be mentally there or who may not be that sane, their talaq can still occur. And an exception to the rule is that in the Hanafi fiqh, if someone who is drunk, someone who, say for example, is intoxicated through drugs or through other kind of substances, it could be through sniffing a Tipex or some glue, whatever, but if he's totally gone and intoxicated, then his talaq and divorce would occur. Now you may be thinking, how is that working? Because I've just mentioned before, and it's mentioned at the top, that husbands or men, they have to be sane for talaq to occur. But if they are insane or if they are not mentally stable, their talaq shouldn't occur. But in the Hanafi fiqh, it says that if someone's intoxicated, whether through alcohol, whether through drugs, then his talaq occurs. Now you could just make a point next to it. The reason why it will occur is because it's more as a punishment, more as like a punishment for drinking alcohol or for taking drugs. Because as you know, alcohol is haram in Islam, and also drugs, intoxicants, they are also haram in Islam as well. So when that person drank alcohol, when he took drugs, then to basically punish him further, if that makes sense, we then say that if he was to give talaq to his wife in that situation, the talaq and the divorce will occur. Now I'm just going to mention one or two things about alcohol to the brothers and sisters. This topic of alcohol, 10-15 years ago, you wouldn't find any imams talking about alcohol or drugs to the Muslim community or in a masjid or in a mosque. Why? Because no Muslim were involved in alcohol. No Muslims, hardly, very few Muslims were probably involved in drugs and intoxicants. But now unfortunately we find many Muslim men, even Muslim women as well, who are alcoholics. Seriously, they are alcohol, they drink alcohol because of cheap beer, probably because of stress, because of difficulties, they drink alcohol. Now it's mentioned, now I don't want to mention too many Quranic verses or hadiths here, but I'm just going to mention one or 2 points about medically what alcohol can do to an individual. When somebody drinks alcohol, the taste buds on the tongue, they start shrinking to the extent that that person, he loses all sense of taste. So in other words, that sometimes when you cut your tongue, say for example, you don't feel like eating anything hot because it's going to burn. Similarly, someone who drinks alcohol, he loses his, the the ability to taste, the taste buds, they start shrinking and he loses the ability to taste. So in other words, you could give him the best food in front of him, he won't be able to enjoy that. Why? Because of the constant drinking of alcohol, it's damaged his taste buds. Also on top of that, it's mentioned in the UK in particular that 80% of throat cancer sufferers, 80% of them are alcoholics. Those who have throat cancer, cancer in the esophagus, 80% of them are alcoholics. And also what is more dangerous, and this is also alluded in a hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, Al-khamru jumma'ul ithm, that alcohol is the roots of all evil. That when somebody drinks alcohol, there are sensitive cells in the brain. And when you drink alcohol, you know these sensitive cells, you lose them when you are in that intoxicated state. What I'm trying to say is that there's some sensitive cells in our brain. When we have the sensitive cells, when it's there in place, it kind of protects our modesty. It protects our bashfulness. But when that sensitive cells in our brains, when it goes away because of too much alcohol, then we lose that sense of modesty, haya and bashfulness. And that's why you will see that many of these one night stands or cheating or husband cheating, wife cheating, it normally happens when there's been a bit of alcohol being drunk before. You hear the classic example, I was too drunk and I had adultery with this particular woman. Or the woman will say, I don't know, I was so drunk, I wasn't know what I was doing, and this man had intercourse with me. So most of these kind of one night stands and these intimate encounters happens when too much alcohol is drunk. And that's why sometimes, we see like when we go town, if we go on a town, say Friday night or Saturday night, you'll see men, I'm sure you can see clips of them on the internet as well. You see men, they'll like urinate in public places. And many of them they're like drunk. Because what happens when they're drunk, they lose all sense of reality. In public place, they'll like take off the trousers and they'll urinate in front of you. So this happens because of too much alcohol. So as I said, that drink alcohol is something which is haram. In the Islamic state, a person convicted or caught drinking alcohol is lashed 80 times. And going back to the ruling here, that if somebody drinks alcohol and in that state he divorces his wife, the Sharia kind of implements an extra punishment on him and says that you have actually divorced your wife. So if a man drinks alcohol and he just blurts out the word talaq, talaq, talaq to his wife, then what will happen? 3 talaqs will occur, or talaq will occur. So that is the exception to this rule which we have in front of us on the slide, that talaq, a husband has to be sane. However, there is an exception to the rule, which is if he is drunk or intoxicated, then talaq will still occur. Moving along, I've just mentioned some of the 2 rulings based from the ruling above. Talaq of a schizophrenic person would not occur. Now, schizophrenic or schizophrenia is a kind of illness, bimadi, where, as you can see from the handout in front of you, leads to a person's mind and intellect becoming unbalanced and obscured. In other words, that he always has doubts and he's not mentally there. So if someone who's schizophrenic, suffering from that particular illness, if he was to divorce his wife, then talaq or divorce would not occur. The next rule thereafter goes on to explain that if the words of talaq are uttered in jest or joke, it will result in a divorce. So if a husband says talaq in a joke, the talaq will occur. Now this is also important as well, because sometimes some men, they will divorce their wives, but then they'll turn around and say, oh well, I was just joking, or I was just trying to scare her or warn her, or she was kind of like, being cheeky to me, she was answering back to me, so I just gave her talaq, just to like scare her, just to tell her who's boss and who has authority. No, you give your wife talaq whether it was to scare her, whether it was to warn her, whether you wanted to show that you're the boss at home, whether you did it out of joke, it doesn't matter. Talaq will occur, divorce will occur. Okay, there's actually a hadith as well where Prophet ﷺ said that talaq uttered in jest and in joke, talaq occurs. So remember, talaq isn't something which is you can play around with, right? This is actually one very important rule where, if you remember at the introduction, I mentioned that there are some incorrect notions or misconceptions about talaq. This is one of them, where husbands, literally, seriously, many husbands think that, you have to be serious to give talaq. So what happens, they'll just, out of joke, they'll say to their wives, talaq, or these kind of words, let's say to them. So remember, if you did say these kind of words, talaq will occur. So it's no kind of joke, it's no laughing matter to give talaq or divorce to a wife or to your wife. If you said it, and you said it, then talaq will occur. Okay, let's move on to the next masla thereafter. Again, he explains that if obviously coming out from the rule above, that if a man wanted to speak some other words, but the word talaq was uttered, or he uttered the word talaq without realizing its significance, then he explains that talaq will also occur as well. Okay, so again, as I was explaining, that talaq, whether uttered in jest or in seriousness, or whether to warn the wife, or he was going to say something else but the word talaq came out, it doesn't matter. Whichever intention it was, he uttered the word talaq, what will happen is that the talaq and the divorce will occur. Okay. Now the next section on the handbook, page 5, the issue of 3 divorces. I'm not going to go over each and every single hadith. The 3 or 4 hadiths I've mentioned there is just obviously for your benefit, to remind everyone that in the Hanafi fiqh, as I was explaining earlier, under the category of talaq bidah, that 3 divorces given to a wife, 3 divorces occur. Even though 3 divorces, to say that is haram and unlawful, but when it is uttered or said to the wife, then 3 talaqs occur. And I gave the example, if you remember earlier, of someone shooting someone, a shotgun. So if somebody, even though to pull the trigger and kill someone is haram, but when it is done, when the action is done, then the consequences occur. So similarly, when a husband, even though to utter 3 talaqs is haram, but when it is uttered and said, then 3 talaqs will occur. So what I've done is that the next 4 hadiths, I've just mentioned some hadiths. This is more for reference, more for your own personal reading, that 3 talaqs given or uttered, 3 talaqs occur. And I've mentioned some hadiths from Sahih al-Bukhari and also from other books like Sunan al-Nasa'i, which indicates towards the validity of a husband giving his wife 3 talaqs. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next section. The next point, on the course book and also on the slide in front of us, talaq in anger. So we're now on page 6 in the course book, and on the slide, talaq in anger. Okay. Now this is like another common scenario which I sometimes have to deal with when it comes to issues on talaq and divorce, is that sometimes husbands, they give talaq and divorce to their wives, and they say to their wives, or so they're given it, and then when the case then comes towards a mufti or a scholar or an imam, they normally come out with excuses that Mufti Saab or Maulana Saab or Imam Saab, I was angry and I just gave my wife talaq and divorce. They normally come out with that excuse that I was angry. Now, firstly, remember, talaq is something which a husband would give to his wife when he's angry. If a husband is madly in love with his wife, if a husband is so happy in his marriage, would he ever think about giving talaq to his wife? Would he ever contemplate giving talaq to his wife? So obviously, when a husband gives talaq, there's going to be some anger there. So anyone who says, oh, Mufti Sahib, I was angry, that's why I gave talaq to my wife, you just say to them, tough luck, you gave talaq, that's it, talaq's going to occur. So if somebody comes with excuses of, I was angry, Mufti Sahib, or Imam Sahib was angry, you don't listen to them, you just tell them that, you know what, you gave your wife talaq, that's it, it's happened, and the separation and the talaq and the divorce has occurred. Now what we're going to explain here, under this particular section, what I was going to say is that, when you look at other rules in the UK, like other kind of crimes in the UK, if you kill someone, if you murder someone, if you go to the police and say, look, I was angry, that's why I killed him, they're not going to let you off. Yeah, what they could do is that if you plead guilty, they may let you off in the sentence, yeah, fair enough, but you still have to go to prison. You break someone's window, you can't say to the police or the guy, oh, sorry brother, or sorry person, I was angry. You have to compensate him. So do you know, in other laws of the country, in other kind of judicial systems in the world, anger is never an excuse. So when it's never an excuse, then how can you then use that as an excuse when it comes to talaq and divorce? So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that, generally speaking, any kind of mild anger doesn't affect the ruling of talaq, and if it was uttered, talaq will be effected. Which then takes me on to the slide which we have in front of us. Obviously, it's also on the course book as well, about some stages of anger. Now, the first, like the jurists, the scholars have mentioned, that anger can be split up into three categories, three stages. The first one is what we call the initial stage of anger, where one's mind is sound and fully in control of what one is saying. So in other words, the first category is that kind of anger where the husband is aware of what he is saying. Yeah, he's actually aware of what he's saying. He's angry, he's obviously really, really mad, but he's got control over the surroundings, he's got control over his words. Obviously, look, sometimes naturally we all get angry, yeah, because like us, that's also inherent in us as well. We sometimes kind of get a bit frustrated with certain things. Sometimes we get frustrated with our wives, they're not listening to us, we're telling them to do something, they're doing the total opposite. We tell them to do the hijab, they're not doing the hijab. We tell them, look, we want the child to be brought up in this particular way, they're not doing it. So husbands sometimes they get a bit frustrated, but they're in control over the surrounding, over the situations. Now in that situation, if they were to divorce their wife, was to say talaq to their wife, because their mind is sound and fully in control of what they are saying, then the talaq will occur. Okay, talaq will occur. Yeah, because I know they're angry, fair enough, but they've got control of their mind, they've got control of the surroundings. So in that situation, the talaq and the divorce will occur. The second stage of anger is extreme anger to the point of insanity. Yeah, so the second type of anger or stage of anger is anger to the point of insanity, where basically someone is so angry that he is not aware of what he is doing or what he is saying. Yeah, he's not aware of what he is doing, what he's saying. In other words, like Sometimes it could happen that you saw something, or you saw someone do something that you got so angry that literally you were going to go, you had no control, that you attacked someone, you punched someone, you were overcome by so much anger that you didn't realize that you actually hit him, or you didn't realize that it was like a normal punch, but because you were so angry that there was so much rev in your arm when you hit him that you kind of knocked him out cold. Sometimes it happens that you get overtaken by so much anger. The example of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam in the Quran, that when he hit that Egyptian person, he was overcome by so much anger that it was just like a normal punch, a normal push, but it was so much that it knocked him cold, it knocked him dead. So there are sometimes extreme anger which leads to insanity, where one is unaware of what he is doing, what he's saying. Now, for the second category, generally speaking, I'll come back to the rule later, but the scholars have said that depending on the situation, talaq may occur, may not occur, but I'll come back to that later, yeah? And if you look at the third rule, where he say that stage of anger which is between the above two stages. In other words, it's not extreme anger, but it's not the initial stage of anger, but it's in between. So it's not the extreme stage of anger, it's not the initial stage, but that which is in between. You can't say that he was totally insane, but also at the same time you can't say that he was totally in control of his words or his actions. Sorry. Okay, now if we could just have a look at I've just mentioned the types of anger on the slide, but I think the actual ruling I've mentioned in the course book. So if you have a look at the course book, page 6, what it says, normally it can be said, what it says problem, that normally it can be said that the anger does not reach the level of insanity as mentioned above, therefore divorce will take place. So I said normally when somebody does get angry and says talaq to his wife, says divorce to his wife, I think generally speaking most of the time it doesn't reach number 2 yet. It doesn't reach the extreme level of insanity. So he will be more aware of his words, of his actions, hence we will say that talaq will occur. But the next problem is, if you look at the next part, however in circumstances where it is claimed that the anger was such that a person lost his sanity, then in such occasions it is necessary that the person has previous medical history of insanity or has been diagnosed by the doctor of being of unstable mind, or has 2 male witnesses or 1 male and 2 female witnesses testifying that on that occasion the person had indeed lost his sanity, then the divorce will not take effect. Now, in a nutshell, that problem or that mas'ala or ruling is explaining, like obviously you get this case where husband will come, even the wife will come as well, and they'll say to a scholar or imam or a mufti that, look, I was really angry. Honestly, when I gave 3 talaqs to my wife, I was so angry. I was so mad, I was so frustrated, so this, so that. They'll use a lot of words. Now, you need to then ask them that, okay, you're claiming to be really angry. Do you have any history of insanity? Do you have any medical, or have you been diagnosed by doctors that actually when you do become angry, when you do become like really frustrated, that you do become insane and mad? Because there are some people, I even know some as well, that you don't get them angry. It's best you don't get them angry, because what happens is when they get angry, they literally lose the plot. They'll break the chair, they'll break the table, they'll break the door down. That's how angry they get. Yes, some people, I know that. So what this rule is telling us is that if that guy is like that we know, doctors have said, or 2 witnesses or other men can actually testify as well, that actually he's one of those hot guys, hot types of people, where when he gets angry, he breaks the windows. When he gets angry, he breaks the door down. When he gets angry, he totally loses the plot, he'll break the table and everything. So if he's one of those guys, and then he's given his wife talaq, then we can say, okay, fair enough, because his anger reaches insanity, talaq will not occur. But if he's one of those that mashallah, like he's a very a jolly guy, he never gets angry, that he's always like talking, joking, loving guy, he's always nice with people, and he gave his wife talaq. Obviously me, I got a bit frustrated with her, gave his wife talaq. Then he comes to you and then he says, oh, I was angry. We know that this guy, he got angry, but it wasn't the level of insanity. So for that person, we will say talaq occurs. But for someone who we know that who is hot-headed, that always likes confrontation, always likes to fight back, and when he gets angry, literally loses the plot, then for that particular individual, what will happen is that we can then obviously say that, okay, your anger may have reached the level of insanity, hence talaq would not occur. But for someone who's not of that level and he gives his wife talaq and divorce, then obviously for that individual talaq will occur. Okay. So that in a nutshell is the section about talaq in anger. Inshallah, like the first session, I'll give you some time at the end of the second session to ask questions before lunch. Okay, now there's some extra rulings which I'm going to mention, which are not on the actual course book itself. So you could write it down on the piece of paper, which we have provided. If anyone needs any extra paper, there's some there for brothers. Okay, a question here is with regards to talaq or divorce given to a wife who is in menstruation. Again, that's also a common question sometimes people ask is, if a husband gave his wife talaq and she was menstruating, does that occur? Does it happen? Does it occur? And or doesn't it not occur? So we need to look at this particular ruling. Now, in a nutshell, all the four schools of thought, so you've got Imam Abu Hanifa, you've got Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad, they all say that talaq given to a woman who is menstruating. So just say she's, like if we go back to our example earlier, December the 1st, December the 6th, they were the 6 days of her menstruation. So just say if a husband, just say on December the 3rd, gives his wife one talaq and one divorce, then the divorce will occur. Okay, divorce will occur. And just to support this rule or this particular ruling, I've just mentioned a hadith here which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari. So as you can see, it's a authentic, a Sahih hadith. And we'll just go over the words which are in front of us on the slide, that is narrated by Anas bin Sirin radhiyallahu anhu, that he heard Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu say that Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu divorced his wife while she was menstruating. So Ibn Umar, the great Sahabi, Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu, his son Abdullah bin Umar radhiyallahu anhu had divorced his wife while she was menstruating. So Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu mentioned it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, take her back, i.e. revoke the talaq and take her back. We'll come back to that later about how to revoke a divorce or a talaq. And the last couple of lines is the key. Anas bin Sirin radhiyallahu anhu asked, is the divorce counted? Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu said, yes, of course. Is the divorce counted, i.e. the divorce which he gave to his wife during her menstruation period, is that counted? So Sayyidina Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu said, yes, of course it is counted. Yes, of course it is counted. So this particular hadith here is a clear evidence, clear example from Quran, from hadith and sunnah in particular, that talaq or divorce given to a wife who is menstruating, that is valid, that is done. Okay, it's very important. It's the same way I mentioned earlier about 3 divorces. Similarly, talaq given to a wife who is menstruating, that is also valid as well. Because obviously, again, sometimes sisters, they kind of email me or ask me, well, I was menstruating when my husband gave a divorce. That doesn't count, does it? So I actually referred them to this hadith here. As you can see, that Ibn Umar anhu gave his wife divorce and talaq. And even Ibn Umar anhu himself saying, yes, of course, the divorce and the talaq occurs when it is given to a woman or a sister who is menstruating at that time. We're not talking about women who are just generally menstruating. We're talking about when they are menstruating. And during that period of menses, if the husband gave his wife talaq, then the talaq will occur. Okay. Okay, now another section which is not actually in the course book is this rule here, which is in front of us on the slide, is in order for talaq or for divorce to occur, there has to be these 2 things. In order for this divorce to be effective, the husband needs to attribute the divorce to his wife. So in other words, if a husband is thinking about divorcing his wife, he has to give the divorce in such a way that it is being attributed to his wife. In other words, what I mean by attribute in terms of, he means his wife. It's referring to his wife. So it has to be attributed to his wife. Now there are 2 categories, or there are 2 points here, or attribution of divorce is of 2 types. The first category, or the first one, is called actual attribution, and the second one is called inferred attribution. So the first one is called actual attribution, and the second one is called inferred attribution. Okay, now let me just explain the 2 very quickly. Actual attribution. Now, actual attribution means that a husband, when he is giving divorce to his wife, giving talaq to his wife, he clearly states that the words of divorce are for his wife. So he's clearly stating that the words of divorce are for his wife. So in other words, he says that I have given divorce to my wife. Clearly, like he uses the words my wife. So you know that, okay, Abdullah or Abdurrahman, whatever his name is, the divorce is given to his wife. No ifs or buts. We know it's for Abdullah. We know it's for Abdurrahman's wife. It's referring to him or her. And the second example of actual attribution, so the second example of actual attribution could be like his wife's name. Just say for argument's sake, his wife's name is Aisha or Zainab, and he says, Zainab, I have divorced you. Or Aisha, I have divorced you. Is the presentation working, or is the presentation on the side, is that working, or sisters? Is it working, or? I think you switched off.
I think they're having trouble with that.
Just have to touch the. I think he's going to sleep.
Okay, if you just just press one of the buttons, or
Enter.
Enter or something.
She's going to sleep.
Yeah, I think because no one's been touching the the laptops is probably gonna be. Is it working now? Or? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Just X off.
Okay. Alright. So as I was explaining that, so actual attribution is like a husband says to his wife clearly, like, I have given my wife divorce, or he uses her name, like Zainab or Aisha, like Aisha, I've given you divorce, or Zainab, I have given you divorce, or something like that. So that is like actual attribution of divorce. And the second example, or the second category, is what we call inferred attribution of divorce, where he used the word, he just said the word, say, divorce. What I mean by inferred attribution is like, he didn't mention his wife's name, he didn't say Zainab, he didn't say Aisha, nor did he say, I have given divorce to my wife. He didn't say that. But what's he done is that he just said the word talaq. He just said the word divorce, just by itself, divorce or talaq. Now, regarding inferred attribution, if the brothers and sisters could jot this rule down, if he intended divorce from the word divorce, then divorce will occur. So if he just said, he didn't say to his wife, he just said the word talaq and divorce. But when he said it, if he intended divorce for his wife, then the talaq will occur. But when he said the word talaq or divorce, if he did not intend his wife, then talaq and divorce will not occur. Talaq and divorce would not occur. So I'll just explain this rule again. And it's actually quite important we understand this rule properly, because later on in the course book, where we will be looking at divorce through email or text messaging, I'll come back to that point again. So look, he just said the word talaq or divorce. He didn't say my wife, he didn't say Zainab, he didn't say Aisha, he didn't say Hafsa or whatever. He just said divorce. Now if he intended divorce or talaq, then talaq will occur. And if he did not intend talaq or divorce, then talaq will not occur. Now the reason why I'm mentioning this ruling is, recently I got a question from someone, like a husband, I don't know, he just like, sometimes like, when we be a bit silly, or if we had a long day at work, we just say some words, don't we? Sometimes we just like, I don't know, sing to ourselves or something like that, or just something, we do something silly, we say some word silly where we don't really mean it, but we just like say it. So what happened was that I think probably the husband had a long day at work and his wife wasn't there. He didn't intend his wife, but just by himself, we were just saying the words talaq or divorce. He just said it by himself. It just came out. But he didn't mean his wife. He wasn't attributing to her. His wife wasn't there. There wasn't like they were having some kind of arguments before and then he said the word talaq. It just came out of his mouth, talaq or divorce. Or like, when you look at it, I've been explaining talaq and divorce rulings quite a bit. So I've kind of said words such as, or if I, divorce the wife. So, those kind of things. So now the rule is that talaq in those situations will not occur. Okay? If somebody just said the word talaq, he didn't mean his wife, nor did he attribute it to her, or just say if an imam or a scholar is explaining a rule of talaq, and he kind of explaining, like sometimes in books where he explains, if a husband said to his wife, I divorce you. So when the imam or scholar is explaining that I divorce you, it doesn't mean he's referring to his own wife, he's just explaining a rule. So in those kind of situations, talaq doesn't occur. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So when it comes to, and that's what it means by inferred attribution, where the husband is not actually referring to his wife, is not referring to the sister, He's not referring to, it doesn't say his wife's name, but he just says the word talaq or divorce. So it's all based on intention. If he intended talaq, then talaq will occur. If he didn't, then talaq or divorce will not occur. Okay? And also at the same time, if someone was explaining the rule of talaq, uses words of talaq and divorce, and I divorce you, but he's saying it in terms of explanation rather than him giving it to his own wife, then talaq will not occur. Okay? Okay. Now this then takes us on to the next point, which is quite a very important point. We're on page 7 now in the course book, and on the next slide, with regards to words used in a divorce. So words used in a divorce. Now, there are two types of words which can be used to effect a talaq or a divorce. The first category is known as clear and plain words, which in Arabic is called sarih, swad ra ya ha. And the second type of words used for talaq and divorce is, in Arabic, is called kinaya, which is in brackets, and they are known as ambiguous and elusive words. Okay? So basically there are two types of words which can be used to effect a divorce. They are clear words of divorce, sarih, or ambiguous words of divorce, known in Arabic as kinaya. Now let me just explain what I mean by the two. If we have a look at the next slide and also the next part of our handout or the course book. What does sarih mean? Now anybody who's done Arabic will know that sarih literally means clear. Something which is clear. That's the meaning of sarih. Which in other words means that a husband clearly uses words of talaq and divorce. So the husband, clearly says to his wife that I have divorced you. Yeah, I have given you talaq. What I'm trying to say is that he doesn't go around the bend. He's not going around the bend. He's being forthright and he's saying to his wife, I have divorced you. I have given you talaq. It's like if I was to ask you, brother, can you pass me a pen? Now everybody knows what I mean, pen. And everybody knows what a pen looks like. Okay, Mufti Saab wants a pen. So similarly, when the husband says to the wife, I have given you talaq and divorce, it's so clear that you can't take any other meaning. He's being so blunt, he's being so straightforward. He's not going around the bend, he says some other words and then he's taking the meaning of talaq. No. Being blunt, straightforward, forthright, he's saying to his wife, I have given you talaq, I have given you divorce. So if you look at the last part of the paragraph, it says clear and plain words effect divorce, whether one intends divorce by them or not. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that clear words of talaq and divorce, automatically talaq occurs. We don't look at intention there. Does that make sense? Obviously intention will come for the second category, kinaya, but for the first category, i.e. clear words of talaq, we don't look at intention. So husband said to his wife, you are divorced, I have given you talaq. We don't ask his intention. Straight away, that's it. One talaq has occurred or has happened to his wife. Okay? Everybody got that so far? Okay, so that is sarih or clear words of talaq. The next category, very quickly, is what is called in Arabic as kinaya, words of talaq. And kinaya words basically is where a husband has said words, but as I've already explained, round the bend way. He hasn't been clear. He's not being forthright. He's just like round the bend. He's done a bit of like U-turns here. He's taken a bit of a few side roads here and there. But he's come up with the word like he's implying that he wants to divorce. So now we look at it later. It could be something like he said to his wife, pack your bags and leave. Pack your bags and leave. So again, there's no mention of talaq, is there? But he said to his wife, pack your bags and leave. Or he said to his wife, get out. Or he said to his wife, get lost. Or if the guy is a bit like abusive in terms of foul language, he says to her, F off, or these kind of words. Those kind of words, or P and then off. These kind of words. So these fall under this second section here. Kinaya, elusive words, where when he said to his wife, pack your bags and leave, you can take the meaning of divorce. Yeah, like obviously he wants out of marriage, he wants her to leave, go home. You can take the meaning of divorce. But actually, you can also take another meaning that actually he wants his wife to, go to his in-laws, i.e. to her parents' house for a few days. So he's telling her, pack your bags and leave, go home for a few days and let's think about it and then I'll speak to you later. When he said to his wife, get out, it could mean get out of the marriage, but it could also mean, get out of the room, I'm just doing something private, or I'm doing something, I'm on the phone to someone, or I want to watch TV, I want to watch the football, I don't want you being there, you disturb too much, ask questions about the offside rule and so on and how everything works, just get out. So it could mean that as well. So these are what we call kinaya words, elusive words, where it can mean talaq, but it also can mean something else as well. Now if you have a look at the last part of the paragraph, he explains kinaya words do not effect divorce unless one intends divorce by them or it is determined by the circumstance one is in. In other words, when he said to his wife, get out, or when he said to his wife, pack your bags and leave, it depends on his intention. What was his intention? So if his intention was talaq and divorce, then a talaq and a divorce will occur. If his intention was something else, that actually he said, pack your bags and leave, I just go home for a few days and then I'll see you in 2-3 days time, holidays coming up, go home, relax with your family and then you come back to the house later. So if his intention was that, then talaq would not occur. When he said to his wife, get out, so either his intention could be, if it was intention get out of marriage, then talaq will occur, a divorce will occur. But if his intention was, get out, you're disturbing me, then talaq and divorce will not occur. So either it's based on intention, or I've written at the bottom there, the circumstances, the prevalent situation, the scenario could also determine whether one intended talaq or whether one did not intend talaq. The situation, that could determine whether one intended a talaq or a divorce or whether one did not intend talaq or divorce. Now, I'll just give you a scenario, a classic scenario of a situation. It could be something like husband and wife, they're arguing, proper arguing, and the wife says to the husband, if you don't like me or if you don't want to go ahead with the marriage, then, give me divorce. Something like that. The wife's asking the husband for the divorce, give me divorce then. So the husband then responds by saying, okay, pack your bags and leave. Okay, pack your bags and leave. So in that situation, from the prevalent situation, we can derive that here when the husband said, okay, pack your bags and leave, he didn't mean go to your in-laws or go to the in-laws for a few days or go to your house for a few days. He actually means talaq and divorce. Yeah, because when the prevalent situation is there, because obviously the husband and wife, they were arguing. The wife even asked the husband, if you don't like me, give me a divorce. Sometimes it happens, the wife kind of asks for it, that, okay, give me a divorce then. If you don't want to be in the marriage, give me a talaq, I don't care. Something like that. And then the husband got a bit angry and he says, okay, pack your bags and leave. Or okay, get out. Okay, get lost. Or okay, this or okay, that, And even though he didn't say the words of talaq or divorce clearly, but the prevalent situation is kind of deriving or determining that actually he did mean talaq. Okay? So that is another way of determining whether talaq has occurred through kinaya situations, is basically through the prevalent situation, he intended talaq or he intended divorce. Yeah. Okay. Have we got that so far? Okay, if the laptop has obviously gone into a sleep mode, then one sister could just press one of the keys and then inshallah I should get back up and running again. Okay, on the next.
After lunch, we'll do another laptop to come to stand up. So we have to reboot it.
Okay, for reboot.
Yeah, so leave it for now.
Okay, that's fine.
You want to disturb you after you finish.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, the next few points which we're going to be looking at, obviously we don't need the laptop for those because they are also in the course handbook as well. I've just mentioned obviously the following words are considered to be like kinaya words, are considered to be ambiguous words. And if you have a look at the course handbook, he explains that if a husband was to say to his wife, I have no need of yours, I have no concern with you, I have no work with you, you have no concern with me, there is no wish or desire, these kind of words. If a husband was to say to his wife, then that constitutes a kinaya word. So in other words, it all depends on intentions. If the husband intended talaq or divorce, then talaq will occur. If he intended something else, then the talaq and the divorce will not occur. Now, before we look at the next section, brothers and sisters, I just want to highlight one particular rule here. If you could just jot this down in your course handbook. I'm not sure whether it's there in the course handbook or not, but we're going to come back to that later on in the afternoon. So I'll just kind of highlight it here. Is when a husband gives his wife a clear divorce. Okay, so if the husband was to say to his wife, you are divorced. So when a husband gives his wife a clear divorce, or uses the word talaq to his wife, then a talaq raj'i occurs. Okay, so you spell talaq raj'i like this, talaq, and then raj'i, R-A-J-E-E, raj'i. We'll come back to these words later, but I just need to highlight here. What does it mean? What's the significance of these terms? I'm going to mention later, but I'm just mentioning it to you now so you know, because we looked at the different types of talaq and divorce. So if somebody was to give his wife a clear divorce, like you are divorced or I have given you talaq, then one talaq raj'i occurs. And if a husband gave his wife talaq kinaya, i.e. elusive or ambiguous words of talaq and divorce, then a talaq ba'in occurs. So talaq is spelled like this, and then ba'in is spelled B-A-A-I-N. A talaq ba'in occurs. Okay? So if a husband gave his wife clear words of talaq and divorce, then talaq raj'i occurs. If a husband gave his wife ambiguous or elusive words of talaq and divorce, then a talaq ba'in occurs. Now you may be thinking, what do they both mean? If you could jot this down, because we're going to come back to that later on in the course book, so I'll explain it there in a bit more detail, these two terms, but we need to understand them for the time being. Okay, if we have a look at the course book, I'm just going to quickly go over the next few rulings before our next break. Talaq in the future tense. Okay, so talaq in the future tense. Now remember, if talaq was given in a future tense, then it does not occur. It is just a promise or a warning, and promises and warnings do not affect talaq. So when a husband gives his wife talaq, he has to say words such as, I have given you divorce. He has to be more like firm in the words he uses, that I have given you divorce. I have given you talaq. Is everybody following? So I've given you divorce. He has to be a bit more firm. If he was to say to his wife that I am going to give you divorce, I am going to give you divorce in future tense, talaq doesn't occur. Okay, so he has to be a bit more clear. He has to be in present tense that I have given you talaq or I have given you divorce. Only then talaq and divorce will occur. But if it is said in a future tense, I am going to give you talaq and divorce, then talaq doesn't occur. And if we move on to the next page, page 8, connecting the divorce with the event, which in Arabic is known as ta'liq. And I've written there in brackets ta'liq, T-A-L-E-E-Q. So what does ta'liq mean? Again, this is also another way husbands sometimes give divorce to their wives. What happens is that a husband may say to his wife, if you go to this person's house, I'm going to give you divorce. Yeah? So what happens? The wife goes there, divorce will occur. Now it could be something like, say, for example, just say the wife's got a friend who the husband doesn't like. The husband thinks that the wife's friend or the wife's sister is very corruptive or is kind of corrupting his wife. So the husband says to the wife, okay, if you go to your friend's house again, one divorce. If you go to your parents' house, one divorce. I don't like your parents, or I don't like your brother, or I don't like your sister, they're staring. So if you go to their house, one divorce. So what this paragraph is explaining, that if the wife was to go to that person's house, or was to do something which the husband connected the divorce with, it could be something like the husband said, if you do this, or like if you watch TV, I'm going to give you divorce, or if I catch you, watching films on the internet, whatever, I'm going to give you divorce. So if the wife was to watch films on the internet, or if the wife, say for example, was to, do something which the husband said you can't do, otherwise a divorce will occur. If she did it, then the divorce will occur. Okay? Again, this is also very common as well. Sometimes husbands, they kind of do that. They threaten their wives in that way. They say, you do this, there's going to be a divorce. The husband may not like his wife doing something. So it could be something like if the wife is not that punctual in her prayers. It's a recent case I dealt with, that wife wasn't that punctual with prayers. So husband said to his wife that if you miss your prayers again, one divorce. If you miss your prayers, one divorce. So obviously if she was to miss it, then one divorce and one talaq will occur. So what I'm trying to say is that this is another way of effecting a talaq or divorce, where a husband kind of connects it with an event in the future. And the next ruling, very quickly before we stop for a break, is distorting the words of talaq and divorce. In other words, if the husband, when he was about to say the word talaq and divorce, he didn't say talaq properly, but he said it say talaq. Instead of a twa, he said it was a ta, talaq. Or like instead of like talaq, which is a big kaf at the end, he uses a smaller kaf. Talaq. Or just like kind of like reads the words or distorts the words. So now a question is that if the husband gave talaq in that way, would the talaq be valid or not? So as you can see from the course book, that the talaq will occur. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes, again, husbands, they'll try to look for excuses to get out of it. So, they'll come and they'll say, oh, Mufti Sahib, I didn't say talaq, I said talaq or something like that. They'll say in a funny way. It doesn't matter. As long as the intention was there, they wanted to pronounce it, but they couldn't pronounce it properly, then the talaq will occur. It's like in English, like sometimes those who don't have good pronunciation of English, they want to say some words, but they can't pronounce it properly, but you know what they say. So you go accordingly. So exactly as well that he wanted to say the talaq, but he couldn't say it properly, or he didn't come out properly, but the intention was there to say and utter it. Then what will happen is that the talaq and the divorce will occur. Okay. Inshallah, we'll just leave it now for the second session. Inshallah, when we have the third session, we will look at divorce through email, text messages. We also got a section on iddah, and also some points at the end about decree nisi and decree absolute. And inshallah, we are inshallah on course to finish the course. Inshallah, may Allah give us tawfiq wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.